first thing I'll do is even up these pins in the back. And then I'll take a couple of strokes along the length. But I'll make sure that I stop before I get near the front. This essentially will create a very slight taper from front to back so that I don't run into any issues as I'm sliding the drawer in, since these are perfectly fitted drawers. So as long as the front edge fits flush and the reveal is constant, if I've got a slight taper in the back, now not a big one because I don't want it to jostle about inside the drawer, but a very slight one will help the fit and give you kind of a somewhat of a vacuum fit. Okay, we're getting close to the end here, folks. I've got all the drawers fitted. I've put a slight chamfer on the front to create the even reveal all the way around. And I pushed the drawers back in the carcass such that I'm getting a very, very slight reveal. I had originally thought about putting everything flush, but since the entire drawer and the entire carcass front basically is all flush, I thought it would be a nice design feature to have the slightest little bit of a shadow line here, so you can see just a littlest bit of a reveal between the drawer blades and the drawer itself. So I've done all that and basically set the drawers where I want them to be from the front. And then come around here to the back. I've gotten, I've put little stop blocks in place that now that I know that I've got the drawers where they want to be up front, I'll set these stop blocks in and basically just position them using a pneumatic stapler. So let me set the gun down for a second. Go ahead and push the drawer out. Give myself a little bit of space to play with, pinching that stop block in place. It's crucial that that doesn't move anywhere. I'm not going to glue these in place because I want to be able to move them if perchance I ever really need to, say through temperature, humidity changes, the drawers change shape, and the reveal on the front changes. I want to make sure that I can always move them later if need be. It's another reason why I'm using staples here instead of normal 18 gauge nails, or excuse me, 23 gauge nails, is I can go in and remove that a little bit easier with a screwdriver later. And again, I push that in, it butts up against the stop blocks and keeps that reveal constant on the front of the drawer. So I'll just go ahead and put the rest of these in place, and we'll be ready to put the backer panels on. Put the backer boards on the back of the carcass, and using figure 8 fasteners I've attached the top to the case. So at this point I just want to lay out and drill the holes for the hardware and put it in place, get it all lined up. Then I'll take that hardware off and it'll be time to finish the entire piece. So just one thing, I put these pieces of tape here as a way to open the drawers. I guess I could have left the backer boards off and been able to push them out from the back, but I kind of wanted to get that all in place and put together. So this will work just as well. Now, using one of those drywall framing squares, I measured in and got the center of each of these top drawers, and then using that framing square, reference it along the top and struck center lines all the way down the front here. The one thing I definitely want is all of these pulls to be exactly in line with one another. It'll be painfully obvious if they're just the slightest bit out of line. So I went ahead and installed the top two pulls, and what I'm going to do now is basically I want to mark out the center point vertically. I've got the center here, the center of this pull here, but I want to center it here on the face. So my drawer should be 8 1/4. Yeah, it's 8 1/4. So 4 1/8 is the line I'm looking for here. 4 1/8. And what I'll do is, oops, just strike a line across those center points. Now I've got one of these drawer pull drilling jigs, and these side slots here actually can be used for a wooden fence that you can reference along the top of the drawer, which works great. Problem is these drawers are too deep for it, but what it does do, what it does show me, is the reference lines. It's probably kind of hard to see that there. That's easier. The reference lines for the drawer pulls of various widths, 3 3/4, 3 inches, 96 millimeters, etc. And I have 96 millimeter drawer pulls, which is actually pretty much the same as 3 3/4. There's also this center line marked here. So now that I've got the center line marked over on the drawers, it's just a matter of lining up the center line on there, lining the vertical center line up with this, this drilling line here. And I use the little holes, and with a scratch awl can just mark the drilling locations. So let's do that now. Set it on the center line. Line up all those lines. And now that I've got all those lines registered using a brad point bit, because it settles in that scratch hole nice and easily. I'm not too worried about tear out on the inside of the drawer, mainly because you're not really going to look at it, but also because the thickness of the bolts needs to be controlled with a washer on the inside, and that washer will cover up any slight tear out I may have. And as you can see, those pulls are centered horizontally and vertically, and they're all in exactly the same line with one another. So I'll just keep moving my way down the front of the carcass. If the positive feedback that I have gotten by posting and podcasting about my mistakes and talking to Matt Vanderlist and Mark Spagnolo, you know, they get incredible feedback, and, you know, thank you so much for doing that when they post when we screw up. So I figured I would post an episode here on a major screw up. You've been following me all these weeks in building this chest of drawers. Got it all done. Went to put the finish on, and remember, this is a piece where the customer has specifically requested to be painted black. Kind of want a high gloss black lacquerish, not lacquer, finish. And normally when I do a painted finish, I have a power sprayer that I use, and I dilute the paint and I get a really nice coverage. Well, I did the same thing, but unfortunately this time I bought a different brand of paint, and that brand of paint was just thicker than what I was used to. And you know, at the time when I was mixing it, I thought things seemed a little bit different. Well, sure enough, started spraying it on, and it just went on really, really thick and gloppy. And you know, I don't know what I was thinking. I went ahead and painted the entire piece,
And then when I was taking a look at it as it dried, it got that kind of bumpy orange peely look to it. So kind of go back to the drawing board, and I actually tweeted this when it happened and got all kinds of advice on some ways to handle it. The good news is the piece of furniture is painted, so in order to fix it, it's not like I've got to strip it all the way back to the wood. So I looked at some chemical strippers and things to take the paint off, and I just realized that the easiest thing to do is to just go at it with some sandpaper, take it down to a smooth surface. I don't necessarily have to get all the tint out, because again, since I'm doing it in black, I'll pretty much cover up anything. And then go back to the paint I'm used to using, go to the original method I've done. Also, you know, this may seem kind of obvious, but I was too stupid to do it. Use a test board before I start painting and make sure the finish is the way I want it. So I'm here at my bench. I've got a drawer here in front of me that is screwed up. I want to show you guys what the piece came out to be, how terrible the finish looks, and I'll walk you through my process of fixing it. Okay. Right there you can see the light glinting off that surface. See that it's really, really bumpy, and yeah, I mean, just a terrible, terrible finish. You can even see some inconsistency through there. These lighter spots that you're seeing here is really just the light hitting that orange peel look. So it really did not come out good at all. These smaller drawers, these actually came out a little bit better than others. You see this one on the bottom. The finish is not too bad, but I'm still getting an orange peel effect there. So I'm just going to sand that all down smooth. Let me take you over to the actual carcass, and you'll see the insides are taped and there's brown paper in there. So that's mostly what you're seeing. But here's a perfect example. Look at this front divider. I mean, it came out terrible. Really, really terrible. And it's really kind of a shame because I put a lot of effort into this piece. The top is not too bad, but again, you can still see the texture there, and that's really not what I'm looking for, not what I want. So here's what I'm going to do. Out here in the driveway, I already sanded this down just using 80 grit on a random orbital sander, and then worked my way up to 120 to 180, and I've got a perfectly smooth finish. But as you can see, you know, obviously the wood has come off in some area, or excuse me, the paint's come off in some areas, but not on the entire thing. The key is that it's a perfectly smooth surface, and I can go ahead and paint from there. Here's another drawer that I'd already sanded, and I applied one coat of paint to. I went back over it with a Scotch-Brite pad and took off, kind of scuff sanded, and I'll go back and do another coat there to get it where I want to. But you can see the marked difference between this this coat of paint and what it looks like in the shop. Alright folks, kind of skipped ahead a little bit there, but you saw me sanding the drawer last, and I kind of got involved and ended up sanding everything down. But really there's not a whole lot of technique to it. It's just a matter of going through and sanding things, getting a nice smooth surface. I went ahead, redid my mixture, and repainted. I've just put a top coat of lacquer. In fact, you can see that it's still evaporating off on the top there, that inconsistency of color. Some spots have dried, some spots have not. That'll even out as it dries. Took the tape and everything off the inside, so you can see the interior dust shelves. The insides have been shellacked, and same thing here with the drawers. The drawers have been painted, taped. They've been lacquered on the front, and the interiors have all been shellacked. So we'll let this whole thing dry. So everything is dry, top coat is dry. I'm just going to go back over everything with a little bit of Brie wax, furniture wax, and this is what I'm going to use to get that really, really high gloss to it. So a lot of people tend to put too much wax on the surface, and I actually learned a little bit as I was working my way through the drawers. Top drawers had a little too much wax, and I had to go back and buff a lot of it off. But just light application, let it dry,
go back with a clean cloth or a buffing rag and buff it to a high shine.
So here we go. The finish has been put on. I finished it up with a coat of paste wax, which was buffed to a high gloss. So I've got a really nice, smooth, glossy finish on this. Just as a tip, when you're dealing with a high gloss finish, one of the things you do have to worry about is fingerprints, especially on a black lacquer gloss like this. And you know, just as a personal taste, I'm not a big fan of really glossy black furniture because of the fact that it shows up those fingerprints. So if you do make something like this, just make sure you let your customers know kind of what the upshot of that is. The care and maintenance of it could require a little bit more cleaning to keep some of the fingerprints off. But the nice thing is the Brie wax wax that I used on this dries to a very nice hard finish, and it will keep it very well protected. Now, the one thing you got to pay attention to in a precision piece of furniture like this, and you paint it. Now again, I didn't use a milk paint. In kind of hindsight, I'm wishing that I had used a milk paint, but this is still a paint that actually sits on the surface of the wood. And if you've got these drawers fit just precisely, the added thickness of the paint on the wood may cause some problems. And I've had to kind of tweak and fine-tune these drawers just a little bit more to get them to fit just right. And I kind of walk through a little bit how I do that. This drawer, it's a little bit snug right in here. I can get it in there, but you can see it doesn't come open real easily. This drawer I've got fit just the way I want it to be. Nice and smooth. This one, and this one as well. You know, there shouldn't have to be any effort there. And you can see this, if I let gravity push it in, it's almost there, but you can see there's a little bit more effort to get it in and out of there. And just don't want to have to, work so hard on that. For that matter, the bottom drawer here really needs a little bit of work. And the good news is, I'll take out this bottom drawer. You can see it doesn't want to come out. You can see some rubbing on the top here where it's actually rubbing off paint from the bottom of the drawer blade. Well, that's the perfect place to hit it with a block plane, remove it a little bit, and the key is you want to be really precise with that block plane because you don't want to be removing finish where you want there to be finish. So let's come over to the bench and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, here's where you can see that it's been rubbing on the drawer. And what I want to do is go in and clean that up. And I've got this tiny little wooden block plane. I actually got this out of Lee Valley, and it's perfect for something just like this. So I come in it at a skew because I kind of turn in the corner here, and I don't want to start getting a whole bunch of tear out there once I've already put so much time and effort into the finish of this. I can take very small and precise shavings so that I ensure that I'm not going to be nicking parts of the finish. I've actually got Rockler bench cookies underneath this to kind of hold them onto the bench. And for such light planing, that's actually working really well. And then I want to go over this kind of on the back of the drawer. You notice on the front of this drawer right here, I've got the tiniest little line of black paint right along the top. And that's actually just so that we're not, seeing the lighter wood coming through. The drawers fit well enough that it shouldn't happen, but it's just kind of an extra measure. Be careful right in here. Got a little switchback in grain. I don't want to mess up the appearance. So let's try it in the drawer now. I think that'll do it. Test, and ultimately, you want it to make sure when it hits those stop blocks in the back, just double check again that the reveal is consistent all the way around. And looks really good. Slides in and out nice and smoothly. So I just need to tweak the last drawer, which is right up here. Just need to make sure this last drawer fits really well. And then I'll take it out of the workshop and kind of polish it up one more time, because even just that little bit of planing I was doing there, I see myself leaving kind of dusty fingerprints on this. So it's important that I get this out of the shop where it's kind of a dusty environment. So at the end of every project, I'd like to take a couple steps back and discuss lessons learned. And you know, this was a great project. It gave me an opportunity really to try a lot of new things. It definitely allowed me to establish my dovetailing rhythm, my hand-cut dovetailing rhythm, that is, and I learned a lot through making all these drawers and things I want to do in the future, how I'm going to approach dovetails, etc. The other thing is when constructing the inner workings of a carcass like this, I don't want to use pocket screws anymore. While it's perfectly strong, I think it would have been easier and saved time in the long run just to put dados in there to hold them in place. I'm definitely going to use screws for the drawer stops instead of brad nails. Throughout the finishing of this, I had a couple of those stops come loose and I ended up having to screw them in place. And I'm probably going to try to use milk paint next time I paint a finish. That's it though. I hope you guys enjoyed this build and stay tuned for more.